Shall we talk about some LCS finals?
Yes. You know what, Monty? I'll be straight up. I don't normally give people a peek behind the curtain. When people made their predictions for the finals, and most experts actually picked Team Liquid, I literally did WhatsApp Monty mocking them for picking Team Liquid. Because the problem is, Monty, in my world, listen, I do think Liquid has an amazing coach. I think the macro's really legit. I actually think this team, it's funny, Monty, how when you put a good jungler with Corejj, magically he's not shit anymore. That's how that works. So he's like a macro genius again, and everything's works. So I didn't think that actually Team Liquid could even win. I thought FlyQuest just going to blow them out the server. Like, they're going to get their picks. And then I didn't know they'd pick Annie all the time, did I? They're going to get their picks, and they're going to go fucking ham. Bwipo's going to get some kills. I thought there was actually no chance. Like, even if they'd lost, mate, there was no chance it was like a clap like this. Because this was definitive, this win. In fact, now you go back and you do look at that 3-2 upper bracket series and go, bro, they barely lost to anyone, and then they clapped people when they were on.
Yeah. So I think you do have to give a lot of credit to Team Liquid, particularly Spawn. By the way, Spawn, former caster, you guys probably know him, former LPL caster. Did a lot of work in the Oceanic scene. He's Australian. He has been coaching Team Liquid's academy team for a couple of years now. This was his first split as an LCS coach, and he just fucking won with this roster, guys. And I love people on Twitter when I literally make a congratulatory message saying good job to Spawn and the Team Liquid coaching staff, because they are the #1 reason this team won, guys. You think this roster of player compared to Cloud9's roster or FlyQuest roster should have won this league? Why can't we just... yes, the players developed. Yun had a good playoffs run. APA had a good playoffs run. They grew. They performed better than their level previously. But how did they do that? It was the fucking coaching staff, guys. The coaching staff deserves this trophy more than any of the players do. Any of them.
Also,
okay?
I'm just going to say it right now, a really hurtful thing that's true. Classic Thorin move. Even though I really love the way they play, and in America, they're geniuses in the draft. The problem is, Monty, that's only in America, where there are certain picks on the other lanes that if you let through, you lose as well. So you actually have a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you ban out all of APA's champions, you're going to get wrecked in the rest of the draft. I'll tell you right now, when they go to MSI, they're going to get booty clapped more than a fucking female hip-hop singer on stage.
I think that's absolutely true. It's going to
They're going to get milked, mate. Your boy Yon, that everyone's loving now. Yeah, he was great in that final. Let's see him against Viper. Well, I'll get ahead of myself. Ruler. I mean, I even granted. In my mind, I'm such a hater. I already had having a life beating team on. All right, Ruler and Elk. There you go.
Yeah, there, Elk.
And that's Sam. All right, we'll do it all. We'll do it all. It's all good.
So, look. Also, because we can only do this on this show, guys. You know what wasn't mentioned this whole weekend? It's weird how FlyQuest lost their strategic coach right before finals, and then they had some kind of weird drafts. Man, so if you guys don't know, and this is true, and the reason why they didn't mention this is because FlyQuest is conducting an investigation that I'm sure is going to have some sort of conclusion and not just result in Richard Sue is his name, quietly being dismissed without any kind of public announcement about this whatsoever. Late last week, there was an article that came out that discussed some things that he had been doing, as far as I understand it, Thorin, not recently, but had done previously. And I can't make this up, guys. He was online pretending to be a 13-year-old German boy. He is Australian. A 13-year-old German boy in order to have conversations with a 17-year-old girl.
Which I will say, technically, I'll just always point this out. There's two things to say here. One, it's not paedophilia. That would be called pederasty. Two, in actually my country, 16 is the age of consent. And then 3, these are just allegations. Like, look,
yes.
I'm sure the fact that there's people that seem to have some evidence behind the scenes, that's very alarming. It should be investigated. But this is like that Dreamcasper thing years ago in Overwatch League. The problem is I cannot, as a public figure and a journalist, say he is a video or did so, because It's just like that would actually be immoral. I don't think and this is why, do you know when that whole women's esports thing was going on, Monty? And I made that comment where I said, like, basically, like, fuck all these people who are like the frauds who claim to represent this ideology. loads of them basically are like degenerates, and I was implying in this way. And everyone, what the fuck? If that was going on, we'd know that. By the way, this exact thing, Monty, you know this. This type of fucked up behavior is the most insane thing that's behind the scenes of the douchebags in esports. Like, it's always this thing that they get caught on. Have you noticed that? It's always some loser nerd who, we don't know if it's this guy, who is potentially like talking to and grooming someone online. They might not even have done anything yet, but this seems to be riddled in our fucking industry of online people, because you're online and you have status and you can online contact people. Like, if you only knew, guys, how many people not only have come out from this, but in the future will get caught like this. It's bonkers. That's why I hate hearing like, when some of those people are the one calling me out, or they're the one representing causes. And listen, behind the scenes, I might have heard something, Monty, but I can't call them out by name. I can't say they did it. I have no evidence. It would be immoral to do that. So yeah, I think this is one of those really, look, I think they've done the right thing. You just suspend the person, you do the investigation. Look, if it turned out it was false, obviously that would be a travesty that you suspended him, but you'd rather that than the worst one. You're in a scenario where there's no good choice, unfortunately.
Yep. And basically it says,
still done it.
According to the article, and I don't know anything more than this, he had an alias on Twitter where he misrepresented his age and talked to underage individuals, flirting with them. These allegations allegedly involve multiple girls, and these actions by Richard are said to be very known within the Oceanic LoL esports scene. So also, Thorin, I'm just going to put this out there. If they were very well known in the Oceanic esports scene, it's weird that this came out immediately before a finals that FlyQuest was playing in, almost as if it was
like a reprisal.
It looks like a reprisal, or something, because the timing of these coming out,
yes,
literally the Friday before the weekend where the finals are being played, is incredibly suspicious. Incredibly suspicious. And also because, especially, this happened during 2020. Apparently, it happened during 2020, so it was 4 years ago, and now it's coming out.
And then they were like, "Not yet, not yet." He's in the finals race.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, could be true, of course, but it's interesting timing. I agree.
Timing is super crazy. So, because nobody talked about this, he was the strategic coach of FlyQuest. He probably had, I know, it's in the name, a lot to do with their strategy. Did their strategy look good coming into this match? No. And crucially, guys, he wouldn't have known who their opponent was going to be until the day before, because that's how LCS playoffs work, where the loser's final is played the day before. Then you have 24 hours to prepare your drafts for the next day, and he wasn't there. He was on leave, allegedly. So, I say allegedly because who knows? Maybe he was like secretly working on this behind the scenes. I can't know what was going on at FlyQuest, right?
There have been secret coaches in Europe. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. In Counter-Strike, there have been some secret coaches who have been in public scandals.
There was one in League of Legends in LEC. True. You know him, mate.
Yep. Yeah. But that wasn't because of a scandal, Thorin. That was just me secretly coaching.
Oh, I didn't actually even mean you. I actually meant someone else.
Oh, I thought you meant the SK one. The SK one. I was, but yeah, I hear you. Yeah. So anyway, this is nobody wanted to talk about this, but this probably affected FlyQuest, and this should have probably been a main narrative. And again, this is where sports and esports are so different, because if this was traditional sports, Thorin, this story, everybody would have known about this, and everybody had been like, oh man, this probably really affected their chances. It would have been all over social media. Nah, this one's just quietly swept under the rug. And to be clear, FlyQuest did nothing wrong here. They did everything right. Oh. Just say, like, we didn't know about this. He wasn't even part of FlyQuest when this occurred. So, like, yeah, whatever. Put him on leave while you investigate.
Monty. This is why I get to go and leave the Pleasantville of fucking League of Legends, straight fire reference, but none of you watch movies, so you don't know what I'm talking about. I get to leave that and I go to the world of Counter-Strike, which is more like Mad Max or something. And after the major final, I had a legendary figure from one of the Riot games DM me and go, holy shit, CS is so fucking based. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I can't believe on the desk for the final of the major, they're just straight flaming the star player that didn't perform, like Rops from FaZe was a bit shit. And I was like, yeah, what's the news about that? He goes, in our game, we're not even allowed. He said literally, you just have to praise them or just not mention them if they do bad. That was literally like what was handed down to you. And if you don't follow that, by the way, you just won't be working the next event. So like, this is also why we will always have a role in League of Legends, because these idiots, by refusing to let anyone else talk about this stuff, ensure that actually we're the only game in town. We have to be the ones to talk about it. Because like you say, Monty, if you just look at this, you're supposed to believe the following, that FlyQuest magically can no longer play a top side of the map. FlyQuest no longer even understand draft, and they just think opting into the same basic picks over and over again will win them a game. Now, unfortunately, that's where the trash talk covered that up, and everyone emotionally reacted, and they were like, oh, it's just obvious it's because they were too cocky, right? They weren't too cocky. They were that good before. Those players, and by the way, you're an idiot if you thought the fly. First of all, didn't you all love the clap back from fucking TL, you morons? A bit like when 100 Thieves beat TL, and then fucking Abedage said like, that they, like fuck them or something like that to like Corejj TL. The trash talk made the game better. And then secondly, great. I think that this is like, I've made this analogy before. There was a recent fight where Colby Covington fought Leon Edwards for the title at welterweight. And because he trash talked even his father, his dead father before, everyone in the world emotionally wanted Leon Edwards to beat him. And Colby Covington had a boring fight where he just lost unconvincingly. It was like close but unconvincing, right? Here's what no one knows, Monty. 30 seconds into the fight, he'd broken his hand. So as a result, he was never fighting a proper fight after that. He's just surviving, right? Now, no one wants to hear that because they want to believe it's just because he was too cocky and he got humbled and this is an Aesop's fable about hubris. So the real problem here is, I agree, Monty, when I watched that final, it's why LS was doing all the weird draft points as well. I just thought, like, who is this FlyQuest team? The fuck it. This isn't even the team I watched the whole split. Like, they look neutered, didn't they? Like, and their star players were doing nothing to me. It was really sad. Wasn't even a good match.
I mean, there were a lot of problems, and I'm not going to blame this all entirely on not having the strategic coach, because
you got to weave it in, though.
Yeah, you have to weave it in, but the players also just played bad. They just played badly, like straight up. I mean, Liquid was a team that has been on the up and up, and credit to Liquid. So there were a couple very important glow ups in these playoffs. One of them was Corejj TL, who was kind of garbage in the regular season, and all of a sudden, in playoffs, his rel starts to look super good. I agree with the rel bans against him, by the way, because he's always been good at rel as a champion, and he was doing wonderful things with rel within the scope of these playoffs. Corejj TL was way better in these playoffs, and nobody ever mentions that. Everybody's like, wow, Yun got so much better. I'm like, did you notice that Core is like way better, like noticeably better than he has been for a couple of years?
When he's like that, they're unbeatable. All the teams he's on. When he's like that, you can't beat him.
Yeah. So I thought, probably he was washed forever at this point in time, but he found a way to unwash himself. And now, but the story was always about Yun. It wasn't like, oh, Corejj TL is playing better. It's like, oh, Yun is amazing. I'm like, you realize these things are in fact connected, and Yun was playing better, but it's a lot easier when Corejj TL isn't playing like shit himself. Number two, like Impact, we got to see playoff Impact. He's incredibly reliable. He's super good in these situations. And Team Liquid had great macro this season. If you guys go back and watch some of my VOD reviews, the first Cloud9 game, the first TL Cloud9 game in the first round robin, Team Liquid played one of the best macro games I've ever seen. It was great on an international level. They have good shot calling when they want to. The combo of Impact, Umti, and Corejj TL is the best shot calling trio, or the best shot calling period within the LCS. They are the best. The problem is that their carries have either been actively bad or working with limited champion pools, and that has been the primary concern. But we're in a meta right now where you can get Smolder, and because nobody in North America punishes Smolder, and I will talk about this, Team Liquid, they didn't play a lot of Smolder, but they got a lot of free wins because of Smolder when they did play it. And there's no punishment onto this champion within the laning phase, and they basically just get to scale for free. Not only that, but in this scale for free, North American LCS teams don't actually do anything world, which has always been true of the LCS. It turns out that picks like Aurelion Sol are very good. And Taliyah is meta, and APA got better at playing Taliyah. He was always good at Aurelion Sol and Ziggs, but now he has a very meta champion to play as well, where if it's not banned, it's a problem, right? Umti has a good champion pool. Impact is a very meta champion pool right now, and he's drawing bans on things like Jax, right? And because it's a flex pick for them, where Impact has played it well all split, and recently we saw Umti be at a pentakill on Cloud9, playing it out of the jungle, and more junglers around the world are running the Jax jungle right now and just kind of farming it out. So Team Liquid came in with a lot of kind of meta advantages, I would say, and they exploited them well. And this isn't to take away from their play because I think their back row was very good in the finals. But we also have to talk about these drafts, which were probably affected by FlyQuest not having their strategic coach, and the appalling level of play of some of their players, particularly Bucio, who was so fucking bad during these finals that he basically was like solo losing games. Okay? Like the APA 1 MVP, the real Team Liquid MVP of this series was Bucio. He was terrible. And I think it was probably nerves because I haven't seen him play this badly before. But literally, he would be, on Nautilus in the river in a 3 versus 4, just dying before an objective and giving objectives up for free. The last fight of the series where he is playing Rumble, he is trying to defend Baron. He literally runs around in a circle doing nothing, doesn't flash a Talia W, dies, and loses the game for his team.
And some of his ults were garbo on that fucking game, mate. His ults were a war crime.
Yep. And guess what? When he played Tom Kench, I can't even believe this. When he played Tom Kench, he built a Heartsteel at 19 minutes. At 33 minutes into the game, he had 27 stacks on Heartsteel. Like,
that's almost on the level, we'll get to it later, of where Adam was like going that like Rod of Ages. It didn't even get to pop before the fucking game was over. I love shit like that. That's like my king. I love it.
I mean, those BDS Vitality games, I reviewed them today. Like, it is incredible that Vitality lost that series. Incredible. I couldn't believe it, dude. I could not believe what I was watching when I was watching this game. I was like, how does Vitality lose the series? This is crazy. But yeah, I mean, Bucio was honestly like next level terrible.
He transformed into Booty Hole. That's what he was. He was Booty Hole.
It was like,
and he also got fucked like one too.
Yeah,
raw. Like raw.
It was.
I've got a question for you, Monty. Right? This brought up the classic discussion, which is why we can't have nice things. So what I'll do is, before you all get emotional because you like this player, I'll take you out of it and I'll take you into Counter-Strike, a game you're not from. And I'll ask you this question, Monty, right? You know, the last major in CSGO was won by Team Vitality. And famously, Team Vitality wasn't just this amazing player, Ziwu, the French player. They had 3 people who were involved with the legendary Astralis team that had won the most majors. They had Zonic, their coach. They had Magisk, who's like sort of like a lurker, and then they had Dupree, who's like a legendary entry fragger. And because they won this tournament, Dupree ended CSGO with the most majors in history. He's the only player to ever win 5. Now, if you don't follow Counter-Strike, would your guess be he's either the GOAT or he's at least in the conversation? Right? Everyone must have him in that conversation. Do you want to know something funny? Nobody has Dupree in that conversation. In fact, do you want to know a better one? Dupree himself has never even hinted that he's the GOAT. Now, do you see what I'm going on this one, Monty? Because the one thing that I think sucks, remember, Monty, before this split, I did a video that was about Impact being the immortal Impact and asking why have all the top orgs let this guy go? He basically goes and then keeps winning elsewhere and wins more championships than goes international. And basically said, why are you obsessed with who? Basically, the meme of LCS is take Jack, Steve, and their fucking everyone, let's see, Jack, Steve, and then the EG one, I guess, Nicole Put Jameson, put their head on that stock photo of the man turning away from his girlfriend. The girlfriend is Impact, and then the girl walking away is Hootie. That's what they all did for the last 10 years, right? And the reason I bring this up is because now everyone said that Impact, he's the GOAT NA top laner, and he might just be the GOAT NA player. Now, the reason why I can't handle that, that's why I gave the Dupree example, Monty, is because Impact's entire strength historically is to let the other carries carry the game. It's why I said on Twitter, why does no one... Scottie Pippen won as many titles as Michael Jordan. Why isn't he a GOAT? Why isn't he in contention? Because he had Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, he did an awesome job. He might have really helped Michael Jordan. Difference is Michael Jordan was the GOAT, wasn't he? So I want to get your take on this. What do you think about this thing where Impact is the GOAT now? Because of his longevity, because of his title. What do you think about this? What's your take?
I mean, I think he's definitely the best top laner. in the history of LCS, but he's basically super reliable. I mean, this is the same argument that people use to say that Bengi is the best jungler of all time, right? I mean, Impact is an incredibly good player. I think, personally, Impact would hold up very well in the LCK or LPL. He turns it on when he's needed. He's still somehow...
Put him on, like, fucking KT. Put him on KT immediately. We're cooking with gas.
Well, maybe not, because it's still Pioshik, and Perfect has been getting better. But, you know, he'd still be fine. He'd be a
D plus then, whatever. We can quibble.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, your point is well taken. And yes, I think he would do well. He would do well in the LPL. He's just an extraordinarily reliable player. He can carry in a lot of these games. He does the job. He's like Keen. He's like a worse version of Keen. He does the job that he needs to do. And he's been great in terms of North America. And he is probably the most key piece you can have because he's an American resident and he always shows up in playoffs and he always like helps lead a team and, you know, provide macro within the game and does whatever job he needs to do in whatever meta. New champions are going to come out. Well, guess what? He can play Cassante in the new version of Udyr or whatever, right? He can play them very well.
He can play everything, mate. He's just a professional, isn't he?
Yep, he's great. So, I mean, do I think he's the GOAT player? No, because he's never been the focal point of a roster. He is a very key piece of any roster. In fact, he might be the fundamental key piece of any roster in North America. FlyQuest gave him up.
You ever listen to interviews? They even say all the junglers, all the mid lane. The best thing about Impact is he'll tell the jungler, don't even bother coming top lane, mate. Just go gank bot lane or something. I'll figure it out. I'll survive this matchup. You don't do that if you're the star player. Michael Jordan didn't go, hey, don't give me the ball, dude. You just score. I'll be here to watch, though. Like, no, he went, give me the motherfucking ball because I'm Michael Jordan, boy. Exactly.
So, I mean, Bjergsen is pretty convincingly more important than Impact when it comes to focal points of games.
Playoff performance he's had. He's like carried the fucking LCS for 10 years.
So, Impact is great. Don't get me wrong, guys. He is the best top laner historically within the region. It's not even a question. He's outlasted everybody. He's won more titles. He is a rock. He will continue to play within the LCS as long as he can, I think. He's not close to retirement, doesn't look washed, had a really great playoffs run. But honestly, like, you know, it took APA and Yun showing up for Impact to win. Impact doesn't win this title if APA and Yun don't show up, period, guys. Period.
By the way, there's also the fun angle, because you know how it is, Monty. We used to be friends with him, but you know what? You fucked with us, so we're scorned lovers now. We're always going to fucking talk shit. We're your exes talking shit about you, Andrew Huberman. So you ready? I just want to say a word and then react. So the word of the day is double lift. Now, and then another because Doublelift obviously outed, didn't he, when he thought Team Liquid wasn't the best team, that he could have been in this team, but Dodo blocked it, didn't he? Well, as you said, Monty, it's like, what do you want to do? Come like 0th place in fucking you already won it, you moron. They actually made you look like a clown. They didn't even pay what you would have wanted, and then they just won the championship without you. Now you look like an actual clown, mate.
And they didn't need it. They didn't need to get Jojo Pian either, even though Jojo Pian would obviously be an upgrade over APA on this roster because he individually was a very good performer for Cloud9 over the course of this split. He's still real good. Just his team is entirely dysfunctional. And I think if you put Jojo Pian, hey, has he been on a roster that won a championship with Impact before? Weird. I mean, technically, he won with Inspired as well. But
I'm convinced at this point in time, Jojo Pion has amazing skills, but I do think he needs like a shot caller. He's like the Chovy example a few years ago, Monty. He needs a shot caller to help him beyond just out of lane, you know, because that's the problem. He's not like the complete package like the Bjergsen was years and years ago. When he's on this team, Cloud9, I always keep saying, where is the shot caller on that team? I have no fucking clue.
No, that person doesn't exist. That person doesn't exist. That's why they're so fucking bad. But yeah, we get into this Team Liquid game, and like I started watching the series, Thorin, between Team Liquid and FlyQuest, and I literally had to take a break in the middle of my VOD review to watch a different VOD because I'll explain. We see the Smolder pick, right? And the answer pick is going to be Kai'Sa Nautilus, and they take Smolder Tahm Kench. Now, Smolder Tahm Kench is a shit garbage lane that should absolutely be destroyed in the laning phase. You have no agency. You get pushed under turret. Your jungler on your Kai'Sa Nautilus team. By the way, they shouldn't have even taken Kai'Sa. If we're being honest here, Ashe was up. You fucking take Ashe. I don't care what you take with Ashe. Take take Ashe Rumble. Take Ashe Rumble lanes. That's what, we've seen teams like FPX do. It's a fucking really strong lane. Absolutely annihilate these kids. Take Caitlyn. Take Caitlyn Lux. You know what? Take Ashe Heimer. Just do anything to punish this pick so that they can't get stacks and he has to be sitting under his turret, scared for his life the entire time. But no, they take Kai'Sa Nautilus. All right, so they take that. But you know what, Thorin? I've already seen a game with the Nautilus and a Kai'Sa playing into a Smolder and a Tahm Kench. That was Fnatic versus G2 in the regular split just a few weeks ago. And I watched this game. So I literally took a break and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because Masu and Busio, they don't even push the wave under turret. They literally just sit there in the middle of the lane and let the wave push into them, let Yun farm up as much as he wants, never attempt to punish him. And Masu is on lethal tempo this game, even though there is a 0% chance he is going to get sustained amount of time to auto attack versus a mid-game Smolder and Talia. So he doesn't take Hail of Blades. So I go back, and you know what? I watch Fnatic beat G2 with this exact same lane setup into Smolder, Tahm Kench. Hail of Blades, first off. And second off, you know what happens? It's not that Razork goes down there and helps Noah and Jun a bunch of times. They just see this. Razork's attention is elsewhere. You don't even have to camp this lane. But you know what? You know what we see Noah do? He goes back, he buys a Cull, he buys a Tier, and then he just stacks, he just free farms into the Muramana Ludens Magic Pen build, Crypt Bloom build, and then he can actually just one-shot people, and crucially, he can poke people without being in range of Smolder's Q. Like, this solves the Kai'Sa range problem, and if you can get into the back line, you can just one-shot Smolder. Fnatic wins this game. I instead have to deal with the torture of watching Masu and Busio get Smolder, Tahm Kench pushing into them standing under turret, and then watching a Kraken Slayer Kai'Sa try and play against a 225 stack Smolder. It is fucking appalling. They blind pick Urgot, Thorin. What the fuck is Urgot supposed to do in this game? Like, didn't we learn our lesson from the Cabashard Urgot from Carbine Corp? Like, why are we blind picking Urgots? Why? Bwipo was also quite bad this series.
No matter which way, it fits the law of the character because someone suffers. Either it's OP and the other team suffers, or you suffer with the Urgot on your team. It's perfect.
And look, I am fully aware that Bwipo is a legacy Urgot picker and that he has been a good Urgot player. But and I also am aware this is game one of a finals, and sometimes you do just weird shit in the first game of a best of 5 to see if you can draw bans or to see if you can win anyway. They were obviously very comfortable going into this. But also, the entire series, I have to watch Jensen. Of course, they ban Orianna Team Liquid because otherwise FlyQuest would first pick it. Jensen's been very good on that champion. But you know what he hasn't been good on? Karma. He's been quite bad on Karma. So he gets Karma here. But what the fuck is Karma supposed to do? You just stand there and you poke a Cassante in the late game while their Smolder just Qs all over your team? Remember,
you also think they kind of looked trigger shy too, FlyQuest Monty? They just looked like they had no clue what they wanted to do.
No, I mean, the whole series, they had no clue what they wanted to do. They played incredibly badly. Even in some of these Annie lanes, I was super confused because they just don't get priority. You literally take Annie so you can drop Bear at level 6 and then push in. We've seen it a lot versus Ahri in the Asian regions as a counter pick. But if you're going to be playing into Talia and Aurelion Sol, you just have to drop Bear on cooldown and push them out of lane so that you actually have mid pressure. But they don't do that. I mean, everybody on FlyQuest, frankly, I think the Inspired did okay, but a lot of the other people, particularly Bwipo and Busio, were just actively very bad in this series. The Gangplank does nothing. I actually had Spawn after the finals, the night of the finals, so it finished in the afternoon. I started doing my stream. He was still up. And he was actually talking to me in my stream about their strategy. And I asked him about Twisted Fate into the Gangplank matchup. And he said that they actually liked the fact that they had an on-hit Varus and TF into the GP because they have a lot of attack speed to take out barrels before he can barrel chain, which I thought was a very interesting point. So yeah, Spawn was talking to me in my chat and watching my review of the games and providing these little nuggets.
You can contact actual coaches and players and get insight from them. So it's almost like that would inform your opinion. Holy.
To be fair, Thorin, I don't have to contact them. They just show up in my Twitch chat. And then I ask them questions. It happens with pro players too. I get pro players in there.
I mean, my favorite of all time was that minor scandal, which, look, no one cares about it anymore, so I'll say it now. That one where I told you, someone gave a vote to Grigori on the team that was 0-44 in the Overwatch League as MVP. And I just went and interviewed a whole bunch of people behind the scenes at all levels, commentators, team owners, other players, people who were fucking analysts, journalists. And I asked them all to rank them. And they all ranked like one of the worst players. But then when I said it, everyone was like, yeah, you don't know anything about the scene. It's like the joke is I'm actually speaking for the scene right now. Like, it's actually a known thing behind the scenes that people didn't rate this player. The problem is fans just get emotionally attached. We all get it. We all get it. It's all good.
But yeah, I mean, it seemed like Team Liquid was extremely well prepared. I think it's fair to theorize that FlyQuest thought they would be playing Cloud9 and maybe wasn't fully prepared for Team Liquid.
Course.
And you add that on top of the fact that they lost their strategic coach who would have been able to help make these adjustments in the 24 hours, since Liquid beat C9, coming into this series. But the individual play was frankly terrible. Umti was great, for the most part in the series. His Jack's game was a little shaky, but the rest of the games I thought he was quite good.
Monty, the thing I can't handle is people just don't get it. He was always someone trapped in the bad teams in Korea. Like, he actually showed promise years and years ago. I used to do a show with Emily Rand about season 8, and she used to always mention this guy on his team. Like, some guy has skills, can make a game. But the problem is he was on teams like fucking Jin Air, like the most suffering teams of all time. Yeah, he has. He already had talent.
He obviously should have been on, especially in the last couple of years when he was on Breon. He should have been on a much better team. He is actually a legitimately good player. He's a very good player. And that's why I was, unlike Pioshik, I was excited about Umti going to North America because I thought he was getting out of hell and actually was a player who deserved this. So I was very pleased to see his win, and I loved the interview he did afterwards where
he was emotional. He flipped everyone basically.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
Because you know what's mad? In that moment, I was just watching off camera, so I just heard someone talking in Korea. I thought that was going to be Yon, and he was saying that everyone was saying I'm shit. And I'm like, everyone was flaming Umti. What?
Of course.
And then he was spicy as fuck. Yeah.
Of course they were, because as we know, in Korea, if you're not on the best team, you couldn't possibly be a good player, as reflected in the All-Pro voting. So because he was on Breon, he was naturally individually shit, and it wasn't that he was just on a bad team. He was a good player on a bad team. Because, as I've learned, Koreans don't understand that good players can be on bad teams, because that is the only explanation of the All-Pro
Chinese
voting.
People. Again, I'm hinting at the all LPL thing.
True.
They also don't get it. They're like, of course, Shun must be better because they won all the games. It's like, bro, you know what? I accept your terms. Jun is the superior jungler. Now, please trade Knight for Care, and we will try this experiment a second time. So you give Milky Way Knight, and then let's just see how it goes. That's all I'm saying. Or you just give him your gap would be better from Kanavi. Give him over, and then let's see how Kanavi does with Care. Let's just see if they're still MVP, though, right? Still MVP. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.